Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial quarterback. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family and guide you toward the fulfillment of that goal. As they say, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your virtual family office. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco. Matt, how are you this morning?
I'm just great, Eric. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's good to talk to you again. It's been a little while. I'm excited that you've brought some guests on the show. Can you introduce a guest for me?
I sure can. So, as the audience knows, the title of this podcast, and it suggests this idea that, as business owners, what happens in our life affects our business, and what happens in our business can affect our lives. And, one of the big challenges that I run across with business owners is trying to plan for both their business and their family's future. So today, my guests are a husband and wife team of attorneys, Jim and Molly Creenan, whose law firm, Creenan Baczkowski, concentrates in business law, business succession planning, municipal law, estate planning, and estate administration. And they have two locations, one in Murraysville and one in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, which is in the Pittsburgh area. And their firm is designed to help business owners address the legal challenges of implementing plans that will ensure the future legacy in both their business and personal lives. Now, Jim's focus is in business counseling and business succession planning, and he's a 1996 graduate of Duquesne Law School. And Molly is also a 1996 graduate of Duquesne Law School, and her focus is on estate planning, estate administration, and elder law. So, Jim and Molly, I want to welcome you to the program.
Hey, thank you very much, Matt. Good to be here.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh, no problem. I'm really excited about this because, the one thing I run across in my business, working with business owners is this idea of trying to mesh together the client's personal and family lives. And it can be very much a challenge. But before we get started, I wanted to ask you guys, not every husband and wife can work together in business. So just as a matter of background to the audience, how did the two of you meet and how did you get started in practice together?
Well, Matt, we met in law school at Duquesne, and we've been lucky enough to now share our mission to help those in our community plan their legacies. Our practice focuses on helping people, business owners, and families, and our practice is the product of succession planning with other more senior lawyers. We try to focus on helping protect hard-earned life savings, and we work well together as we manage our team. To help us stay on top of developments, we belong to a national organization of estate planning and business attorneys called Counsel.
That's awesome. It's interesting trying to work. I remember when I was first starting my practice, and my wife was actually going to come on board with me. And then we kind of thought about it, and we looked at just kind of how we interact. And, we're great as a husband and wife team, but we just finally realized that, boy, as business partners, probably would not be the best way to work. I mean, we kind of have our own ideas on everything. So I think it's great that you guys can complement each other as you do. So, in one thing, and again, as I talked about this whole idea of business and life, in my space, which is the automotive collision and repair industry, the biggest pain point that I come across is, I meet prospects, I meet these owners, and most of them they're grease monkeys. They're focused on moving cars to the shop, and all of a sudden they get to be in about their 50s, and their kids are getting a little older, and they kind of look and they say, holy crap, I have no idea where I'm going. My kids are getting older. They have either expressed an interest in being in the business or not expressed it, or maybe not said anything. And I don't know what my future holds. I don't know if I'm going to retire, if the kids are going to take over the business. Are they going to be capable of taking it over? Am I going to have to sell it? There's all these question marks. And one thing I know with these guys is they hate uncertainty. So how do you help your clients create these legal protections that give them more certainty about their futures?
Well, Matt, we know it's not easy for anyone to pass the torch to the next generation. One of the issues that our clients have to encounter is when and how to relinquish control, whether that be operational or ownership control. When there's no one capable that's already involved in the business, it becomes a tougher decision. We first look to get an overview of the family business. We look to get an overview of the family, and together we consider all estate planning options. We discuss the business operations. We investigate current legal and accounting status of the business to determine what details need to be accounted for in the process. So then we really dig deep into the business assets, including real estate, inventory, equipment, customer lists, and goodwill. And in your space, in automotive collision and repair, it's not uncommon for those industries to have a steady stream and existing client relationships that have to be protected. So altogether, we helped identify the best outcome for the company, and whether that's income needs, transferring to a family as a gift, or using a sale technique, or even finding someone who is a key employee that is capable of managing and taking it to the next generation. If none of those options are available, we will always help the client identify ways to find an external buyer for the business. We have a few facts and figures for your audience. Many would imagine that the average lifespan of a founder of a business, their role as CEO, is about 24 years. So that transition is one that is difficult to begin with. And we anticipate that in the next 5 years, about 40% of owner-founders are expected to retire. That's pretty significant in our area. 90% of private companies across the country are family-owned, but only two-thirds of those, actually two-thirds do not have a succession plan, only one-third does. So many just think their business should be dissolved and wound up when they can't do it themselves, but we think they're missing a big opportunity to package together their sweat equity and to transfer that wealth to the next generation.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Do you ever run into situations? This is one thing that, and I talk to the kids about this a lot of times, because many times as you start initiating these conversations, and maybe the family either hasn't talked about a succession plan, or there's been some, maybe some preliminary discussions, but the kids will be like, well, I just want dad out of here. I can't, that mom and dad are too controlling. And the one thing I explain to the kids is that, in many cases, mom and dad kind of birthed this business just like they birthed their children. I mean, a lot of times they've built it from the ground up, but yet the kids have not gone through that experience. How do you kind of help clients to navigate some of that psychology that could be going on there?
Well, Matt, that's a tough one. We need to understand whether the children of the founders are actually involved in the business. And if they are, it's a different discussion than if the children just have a sense of entitlement to take over the business when they don't have that operational experience or the commitment to the business itself. They might be committed to receive the income, they might be committed to the perks, but the sweat equity factor is one where we have to identify whether the children are appropriate candidates to become owners of the business.
Yeah, that's so true. And, and again, I think a lot of times both the parents and the kids think that they've learned the business through osmosis, that maybe the parents really haven't sat down and taught the kids some of the intricacies of the business. Like, especially, let's look at, automotive repair. They may have them under the hood and they may know how to work on an engine, but when it comes to actual running of the business, they've never really taught them those things. And that's where at least I see a lot of the danger in that succession plan, is that, again, if you expect the kids to kind of take it over, they don't know how to run a family business. And what they say, rags to riches to rags in 3 generations, and how 70% of family businesses fail in the second generation, 90% in the third. When you have a case where the kids maybe not have an interest in the business, and you alluded to this earlier, because one of the things I think is interesting is that you talked about looking for an outside seller. And I think one of the struggles a lot of business owners come into is how to value that business. Like, what should we sell that for? I mean, I ran across a client who has they have a collision shop, and he wanted to get out. Didn't have any no kids to take over the business. No real key employees. It was a very small shop, and so he's like, "Well, I'm going to sell it for $1 million." And I'm like, "Well, where did you come up with that number?" He goes, "I don't know. Just sounds like a number." How do you guys determine what that business should be sold for? What that valuation would be?
Well, there's a few different methods. I mean, one method would be just getting the CPA involved, who is familiar with the operations and can help us identify a value. And that could be dictated by the company's operating agreement or shareholder agreement as to how shares should be valued. So the shares might be valued a little bit differently than the business itself. And oftentimes, though, might be necessary to get a certified business valuation expert involved, and that person could put a dollar figure on the business based upon current economic conditions.
So
also, too, if there's land involved. If there's land involved, then you may need a certified appraisal for that land to determine its value.
Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So that's actually where, with Molly, I wanted to ask you, because I know you handle a lot of the estate planning for basically the families. Now, I'll kind of give you a hypothetical situation, I guess. So we've got a family, they own a business. We've got, let's say there's 4 kids. And 2 of them want to be a part of the business. And maybe one wants to basically be CEO. Maybe another isn't that involved. Maybe just likes the marketing end or the operations end, and that's what their focus is going to be. But there's 2 other kids that aren't interested in the business. What are some things that this client can do to help ensure that the parents, because a lot of times the parents, they have this feeling they want to be equitable to all the children, but if 2 of them are getting a business that's worth a couple $1 million and the others maybe they're not getting that, how do you help your clients to develop a plan so psychologically they feel that they are being fair to every child?
Well, we can evaluate what the assets are that are owned by the family or the estate, determine if there are assets separate from the business that could be earmarked or bequeathed to the children who are not involved in the business. Sometimes that is a better plan, so that you don't want to divide all the assets. Let's say if there's 4 children by 4, if
Right.
only 2 of them are working in the business day in and day out. I think it's better to look at the assets, evaluate what they are, and maybe determine there's a dollar figure or other assets that could be distributed to those 2 other children not working in the business.
And Matt, if there's not the capital within the business to take care of that, then that's where we would have the client explore life insurance options to be a way to transfer some wealth to the 2 children who are not involved in the business. Other options would be to simply create a fair market sale to the 2 children that are involved in the business, and that creates a little more of a fairness to all, so that even if it's an installment note over time, then those 2 children in the business are helping to really pay their fair share.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. The installment note, do you use that many times? Let's say the parents are looking to transition, maybe more of a retirement. The kids, instead of just handing the kids, doing an installment note from both maybe a tax standpoint and also a retirement planning standpoint.
Yeah, that's an excellent tool, and when used appropriately, it can commit either the company or the purchasing children to ensure that the parents have an ongoing income stream into their retirement. And many of our business owners don't have a robust 401k or pension plan that some of our individually employed clients might have. So really getting the value out of the business is the trick there, and the installment note is one way to do that.
Yeah. That's, it's interesting. Part of my 5-step process that I do with clients, the 4th step is really to create that, what I call a self-buyout program. And that's using funding vehicles like their retirement plan, maybe some external other advanced planning strategies to be able to build them. I basically call it for the owners their self buyout program, so that they're not at the mercy of trying to either sell the business for a certain valuation or be at the mercy of the kids. But like you said, I think a lot of times the kids just don't even have the resources available to be able to just buy the business outright. And I think the installment note can be a way that they can pay back the parents utilizing cash flow from the business. And even mom and dad maybe could take a consulting role in helping them to to continue on the business. Have you ever used any strategies like that?
Yeah, we do that all the time. And as an example, we just helped brothers who are approaching retirement. One has about 10 years left in the business, and the other one has decided he's ready to retire. So his half of the business is being transferred pursuant to a bank loan. So there'll be a purchase, and he's going to be able to cash out. But there will be a period of overlap where there's some replacement of income and other benefits for a period of time, and that helps make the deal tolerable and worthwhile for both sides. The other aspect would be just what are mom and dad's real income needs? Their lifestyle has been dictated by how they run and operate the business, and so sometimes the business provides vehicles or other things that the parents have relied upon. We just need to make sure that there's an adequate income stream for them going into their retirement years.
Yeah, very much so. So, one of the things, actually, it's funny, on my website, I have like these 4 questions that scroll down. And one of the questions is, what do you do when life throws you curveballs? Which we all know happens in life, whether it's, sick parents, children's divorces, drug addiction. I mean, that's a reality in our world today. All these type of things, and they can derail the business owner. So if a child's going through any of these things, all of a sudden now they're kind of sucked out of the business to be able to take care of that parent. And so what I want to, this is going to be kind of a 2-part question. So, what I want to see is, what are some strategies, both from the business end and then from the personal end, that you can implement to help them navigate these life challenges?
Well, many times if we have a power of attorney in place, whether it's personal or business power of attorney, we feel that will be a way that if there is a sudden event, that the business and continuity, everything can continue. Having a trust is also a way to allow for the continuity. Let's say if the real estate is in a trust or the business is in a trust, that is another way that you are avoiding problems with transition or succession.
And Matt, what we like to be able to do also is to tie the personal planning into creating some sort of a corporate resolution, something that would affect the ability, not negatively but positively, so that if there is an event of disability, death, whether a temporary disability or unavailability, then the business owner will have someone in place using the under the power of attorney law, who is authorized, at least in Pennsylvania, to step in and take whatever action is necessary, whether it be payroll, dealing with the bank, dealing with customers, and that's critical to ensure that those things work together. That's why we like to get the whole picture. We like to see everyone's full detail, and what we'd also like to emphasize to our clients is that there's not a one-size-fits-all scenario that we just pull off the shelf for everyone. We really need to make sure we understand how the business runs and how the family runs.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the truth? And I think sometimes that's where it gets lost. It was funny as you were talking there, and it got me thinking about, kind of in my practice and when I come into clients. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, when are your clients, when are they coming to you? So what I mean by that is, do you find that many of your clients are pre-planners and they're anticipating, or do they come at the oh crap moment when all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we got this situation that's happening and we're not prepared? Or is it somewhere in the middle?
Well, I think it's probably 20% are pre-planners, 80% have a present need. We have clients across all industries, and we have seen an increase in people having the willingness to transfer their business, the willingness to even just sit down to do a basic estate planning. So this year, for us, since last March, during the pandemic, we've probably been busier than ever just because people have had a little extra time at home, and as they're thinking about what's going on in the world, they want to make sure that, not maybe now is the right time to ensure my legacy is placed in the right hands.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's. I think sometimes we look at some of the negatives of things like the pandemic, but I think that's one of the positives. It's actually forcing people to start to say, hey, am I really prepared for if something, really tragic should happen? I mean, for many business owners, yes, this was tragic. I mean, not being able to operate, seeing reduced cash flow, those type of things. But, there's also many that were able to, like I know, the collision and automotive repair industry, they were considered essential businesses. So many of them were able to continue on, but it gets you thinking about, wow, what if something worse happens or I am not able to operate? And I think this idea of pre-planning is really important. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I tried to bring on guests like you guys and some of my other guests is to really get the audience to start thinking about these things and think about how they can prepare for these, not only these transitions, but also the curveballs that life is going to throw them. So hopefully that, through this podcast, we can provide some of that messaging to them. So what I think is really cool is that, again, because, Jim, you handle business area, Molly, you're handling more of kind of the personal estate planning. You've got other attorneys within your office that, a client can come there and not have to worry about bouncing from one attorney to another and not having the communication maybe that's there. So what I wanted to ask you is, who are your ideal clients? And then, for those that are listening that this resonates with, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, Matt, our ideal client is a family-owned business and is looking down the road. We have clients across all industries: automotive, hospitality, commercial, real estate, construction, and many more. In 2020 and now 2021, we're seeing an increase in the willingness of family business owners to pass the torch to the next generation.
And Matt, over the past few years, we've had all different forms of family succession planning or business succession planning. Some of it involves a lot of real estate, some of it involves no real estate, but simply asset purchases. So in your space, in the automotive, we're really probably dealing with a combination of those where people probably own the land or may lease the land, but we want to make sure that there's an ability to protect that. So those are the types of people we like to to help. Those are the types of people that we want to work with and make sure that we understand how they want to pass that on. And I wanted to mention one other thing, Matt. We have a pretty successful program where we help small business owners who might be afraid to pick up the phone and call the lawyer. And there's a fear that there's going to be a huge bill just for asking a simple question. So what we are now calling our 365 Counsel plan, that allows us to sit down initially with the client, do an annual review, and set up a low monthly fee based upon what we expect during the year ahead. And we don't charge for phone calls, we don't charge for questions and emails. We do a lot of basic document review. And then if there are any other projects, those clients that are enrolled in that program basically are eligible for a reduced fee on larger projects. So if we really got into a business sale, business restructuring of any kind, then all of that time would be done in an appropriate way. But we have a pretty good website, and I think maybe Molly can tell you the website and also our phone number.
Our website is www.cbattorneys.com. Our phone number, 724-733-8832.
That's great. Thank you, guys. And I'll tell you what. And I remember when I was talking to Molly, and she told me about this, flat fee retainer business. It's actually, that's how I run my business, is on a retainer basis. I started it 7 years ago, and especially in the financial service industry, nobody had ever heard of it. And I was, I have a mastermind group that I'm a part of, and they used to call me the pioneer, and I always tell them, yeah, but the pioneer was also the guy who took the arrows in the back. But it's interesting because I think, I've been trying to get, my professionals and, other professionals I've been talking to look at this retainer, this type of kind of ongoing retainer program, because, I think that is a concern with many people, is that, every time I pick up the phone, am I going to get a bill? How much is it going to be? And just having an idea that we, especially as a business owner, having a fixed cost is really, I think there's a huge benefit to that to them. So I think that's a real, I think that's great that you guys are doing that. And I think, I want to encourage you, because you're probably, at least from, in the law practice end, you're one of the first that I've heard doing that. So, continue. I think it's the way business needs to go. So I'm really encouraged that you guys are doing that.
Good. Thank you very much, Matt. We're looking forward to helping some of your clients and helping you any way we can.
That's no problem. I certainly appreciate that. So, Eric, do you have anything you want to ask Jim and Molly?
Well, not ask them necessarily, but Jim and Molly, congratulations on running a successful business together. That isn't easy. My wife and I worked together and lived together at the same time for a good 13 years. So 24 hours a day, basically around each other. And there are some times when it's tough. And so for you guys to do this in a law firm and specialize in what you do, I think that's fantastic. So congratulations to both of you. Also, Matt, of course, wonderful guest. Thank you so much for bringing them on the show.
No problem. It's something I run across all the time in my business. So, I like the model that Jim and Molly have, and the fact that they are a team, and they can complement both the business and the client's life in a complementary way. And that's what we're all here trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for being on the show, Jim and Molly. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. No problem. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. And of course, the last thank you goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Matt comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thanks so much for listening today. For everyone at DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or another qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, doing business as DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state securities authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.